Hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is a little bit of help for lesson 7, at least the first part of lesson 7. The draw loop is so important. We're going to use this all the time, so it's really important that you understand how it works. So let's take a look at a couple of things. So first of all, I'll go through some of these quickly. If you don't have questions until a later task, feel free to fast forward. So the draw loop, if you don't have a draw loop, things just happen automatically. And they kind of are what they are. It's kind of a still life. If you add a draw loop, things happen in a loop. So they just continually happen throughout the program. So with this particular code, you have this, the sea green is the color of your ellipse. And if you notice, the ellipse, instead of it being defined up here, it's drawn in the draw loop. So that means that it'll continue to draw ellipses at a random number between, it's going to be the same size each time. It's the standard 50 by 50. But it'll be a random spot all over the screen. Okay, so if I hit reset and run again, they're just popping up all over the place. All right, if you change it up a little bit, like with this one, it's the same program. It wants us to add code that has orange circles being drawn too. So again, if you want it to be happening randomly throughout the program, you want to add another ellipse inside of your draw function. So I'm going to go to drawing. I need to change the color of my new ellipse. So I'll put that underneath this one. We're going to change it to orange. And I'm going to grab an ellipse, drag it over, and we want it to do the same thing. Now, see this little arrow right here? You can put these at 50-50 if you want. That's only if you wanted to change the size of your ellipse, because right now, oh, that's not really helpful. So if I just hit this little arrow, it gets rid of that. So you just see the 2. So now it's going to be the standard size. But the thing is, this one's not moving. Because it's set every time it loops, it's going to be drawn. Basically, it's drawing the same circle every time, just in the same spot. So we want it to be in a random number, a random spot as well. So we're going to grab our random number, drag it over, and we'll do it again. Right now, it's just between 1 and 10, so it's pretty much just staying up there. It's moving slightly, but we want it to be between 0 and 400. So if you just hit tab for each of these, you can move through it a little faster. So now you've got random circles, all the same size, popping up all over the screen. Okay. 6 is going to look a little bit different. All right, with the last one, every single circle that was drawn, you saw it, and it stayed there. It didn't disappear. If you look at this one, that ball is showing up in random spots at that ellipse, just like the other program. But there's one thing that's different. Well, there's a couple of things different. But if you notice on the last one, the background was drawn outside of the function, outside of the draw loop. If you make it so that the background is also looping, basically it gives you a blank background every single time. All right, so if you want it to appear like the ball is bouncing all over the screen, then we'll put the background inside of there as well. Like, watch what happens if I just slide that. Well, I can't do anything with it right now, but if you were to slide this background out, then you would see the yellow ball just keep, multiplying like it did before. So the red background is going to stay there when it's inside the draw loop. The other thing, if you notice how quickly the ball is moving, this world frame rate, that controls the speed, and we'll play around with that. All right, so task number 7, it says run the code. discuss why some code is inside the draw loop and some is out, and try changing the frame rate and running the code again. So let's see what's going on. I'm shrinking up the instructions so I can look at my code. It's a little bit easier to see what's going on. So it looks like this guy's just kind of dancing. So let's see what's going on. We defined him up here, and they didn't change his name. He's just the sprite. The world frame rate. Let's see what happens if we change it to, say, 2. He's moving slower. So the faster this world frame rate, or the larger that number, the faster it appears to be moving. All right. So the next thing is they defined what the animation was. Again, if you hit the drop-down menu, if there were other animations in there, you could change that. All right, so inside the draw loop, the background is orange. So again, if I had the background outside and I tried to run it, it would basically be like that trailing effect. Every single one is stacked on top of each other. But by bringing the background into the draw loop, it makes it appear that it's moving. The guy's kind of dancing around. And now if you notice this is what we'll get into. He's only moving from side to side. That's the X value that's changing. All right, so basically you're going to, if you go into sprite, if you wanted him to move up and down, you would select the Y value because that's the Y axis. If you want him to move side to side, it's the X. So you just grab that, do a random number between 200 and 220. So it looks like he's kind of dancing there. And don't forget the draw sprites inside of there, so it actually draws it. All right. So let's look at one where you're changing the Y value, I believe. Might be the next one. Okay, so this is still the X value. So it wants, if you notice, the pencil appears to be writing, but the paintbrush or whatever this is does not. So it says run the program, edit to make the second sprite shake like the first one, and move on when your program looks like the picture. All right, so we have our variables defined, the pencil, where it's located, its animation, and then the brush and where it's located and the animation that it is from here. You can easily change those. Then your draw function, you've got the background in there because, again, if you didn't have the background in there, it would basically just keep stacking on top of each other. So the pencil's X value is a random number between 100 and 110. The brush's X value is just remaining still at 300. So if we change that to a random number as well, between 100, oh, well, this one wouldn't be between 100 and 110. Look at the X value here. The pencil's X value is 100. The brush's was 300. So we'll change that to 300 and 310. And take a look. There it is. Okay. If you wanted to slow those down, again, you could bring in the world frame rate, which we don't have the option for on this particular level, but we will. All right. A couple more on this video, and then I'll switch to the next. All right, so this one is a salt shaker, and we want it to make it look like it's shaking up and down. The X value is not going anywhere. This time it's the Y value. So the world frame rate is there. Basically, that's, again, the speed of the salt shaker. You have your sprite created up here, the location, and the animation that it came from. Now, if I hit run, it's just sitting there. If you want this action to take place, you have to drag your draw function over. All right, if I hit reset and run, nothing happens. We got to move some stuff in there. So the draw sprites will be in there. We want the Y value to change, right? We want it to make it look like it's shaking up and down. So I'm going to drag that in there. And remember, if you don't put the background in there, you see this trailing effect that it has? That'll show up. So if we put the background in there as well, hit reset, run, there it is. All right. The last part of this video, and then you'll be working on your scene and adding to your scene. If you notice, there's a couple things going on. Both guys are they're not really moving from side to side. They're kind of rotating. So we'll get into another code there. Sprite.rotation causes it to rotate, turn from side to side. But also, do you see it looks like a star that's kind of popping up, or the stars are popping up. So we're going to talk about that as well. So we're going to run the program, add code to make the other alien shake, and then we're going to make it, I don't know if the star's in there yet or not, but we'll take a look at that as well. So let's hit run first and see what's going on. All right, so the star, to make that effect, because we're going to have that in our games, and you're going to have some where there's like multiple, like 20 of them. So that is just this right here. Oops. Well, you've got, first of all, the world frame rate. That's how fast everything's moving. You've got your green alien, its location, and the animation. I don't see, oh, there's our ellipse. All right, so we got the background in there. Do you notice how the fill is up here? That's the fill for the ellipse. All right, it's okay that it's up there. So the ellipse is just a random number between 0 and 400, so it's showing up anywhere on the screen. And it's just a tiny little guy. If you didn't have that there, it would be this huge ellipse. Let me show you what would happen if it was a regular size. That doesn't look like a star to me. So that's where the 5 came from. And I mean, you could even change that to a random number between, say, 2 and 5 to make the stars look like they're different sizes. But we'll get into that later. All right, so there's your star. All right, we've got our aliens up there. Now, the green aliens rotation is changing each time. And this -5 to 5 is basically, it's just rotating slightly from left to right. -5 degrees off and 5 degrees off from its standard position. So I'm going to do the same for my other alien. So that is the alien's rotation. So I'm going to grab the sprite.rotation, bring it over. This one is the pink alien. And make sure, if I don't capitalize here, there's going to be an error. Okay, there's a bug because it's not going to recognize what pink alien is. All right, you want to make sure that you're using, see how it's got the camelback text. That means you just start with a capital. But that's how they had it. You want to make sure that everything matches. All right, so we also want that to be a random number. And now 1 in 10, let's see what that would look like. It's kind of hanging out this way. You want it to rock back and forth. So the -5, oops, excuse me, -5 to 5 is going to keep it, kind of centered. All right, so we'll stop there. The next part of this, you're going to be adding code to your scene from the last lesson. All right, so make sure you add a draw loop to your program. You should only have one. Use the lasso selector, click, hold, and drag to select code that will be updated each time and place it inside your draw loop. So if you wanted to, instead of just dragging it in or putting it back in, you can always use that option. But this is what you need to do. Add code to your program that updates your sprites, X value, Y value, or rotation properties so they move. You'll need to update them with the random number. So for me, maybe I'll make this mouse move back and forth, or maybe I'll make this bear shake with my rotation. So you just have to add some code that will make that happen, but you'll need to use the draw function to do that. And I will show you what I did in the next video, but give that a try. Good luck, and if you have questions, come see me.